How do you select an SAT tutor? There's a number of ways in which a SAT tutor can be selected, and ultimately it's what's going to best serve the needs of your student. In many cases, since parents will be making the decision, it would be for their child. And how is it that you can make this decision on the SAT tutoring? How can you best select a tutor? Well, we're going to go into detail in this video how you can best do that. First, you can select a tutoring agency and contact them by phone or by email, whichever. And if they're a good agency, they will do their due diligence to try and excuse me, to connect you up with a tutor who best understands your child's needs. And that would be a very important thing to keep in mind. Is one who can personally relate to the experience that your student needs. For instance, if your student has strength in math but weakness in the critical reading section, then you want a tutor who is conversant, who is strong in that area. Conversely, if they're stronger in the reading, conversely, if they're stronger with the math, then you want a tutor who's going to emphasize more of the critical reading. Or you may have a balanced approach where both the math and the reading are emphasized. Ideally, while there are merits to having one tutor for the critical reading, one tutor for the math, one tutor for the writing, it is my experience, due to the nature of a tutor-student interaction, it's preferable, if at all possible, to have one tutor tutor the student on both the critical reading, the math, and the writing sections of the test. This way, many times there can be a carryover between the two. And also is the rapport builds between the student and the tutor. The tutor recognizes how that student best processes information in all three areas of the math, the critical reading, and the writing. So you can have one selected by a tutoring agency for you. Now, I was informed by a very fine agency that I've worked with in the past and may work with occasionally in the future, that training is not permitted for an agency to train a tutor, because that would change the IRS status and make that tutor an employee. So that greatly limits what can be done with some of the agencies. On the other hand, there are some very elite agencies who will charge a very high rate, promising very high results. And if you look at the potential payoff of a very high SAT score, it's understandable why some parents are swayed in that direction. And as a matter of fact, if the students do get the results that the high-priced agencies mention, it is well worth the money. However, there are really certain fundamentals that carry over from tutor to tutor, and each tutor may have certain secrets, it will, things that are not known to other tutors, different ways of conveying, but a lot of the fundamentals are a carryover. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind in selecting a tutor, if you have one from a large agency, many times they have a very large roster of tutors that are fresh college graduates. And many times these young people are very sharp, may have achieved excellent scores on the SAT themselves. However, the flaw in the thinking is because that student achieved a 2100 cumulative, which one of my students has achieved, that on the SAT, that they're going to do the same. There are many highly educated people who have a great deal of difficulty communicating their knowledge. So do not fall for the trap of somebody saying, I'm a genius, I got 2400 or 2350 on the SAT, pay me $400 an hour, it's worth it. That's a trap. Is a tutor ever worth that high a price? Could be. If you figure the cost of tuition, what can be saved on scholarships, and well, we can address that in another video. Scholarships, certainly at the very least, college admission, it's very significant. But simply because a tutor charges a high price doesn't mean that they're a great tutor. It just means that they charge a high price. Now, you will find, in addition to those sources, I've been tutoring SAT extensively for about 12 years now, that one facet of selecting a tutor that was not common back then, is very common now, are some of the online tutoring services. You can do a search and find them on your own. But essentially, these are tutoring agencies where they advertise the tutors, they give them the publicity similar to a traditional tutoring agency. The difference is that you're not dealing with a live person. It's all done through the internet, and you're given a group of tutors to choose from. So essentially, the concept is the same. However, keep in mind, just like in the agencies, there has to be a sharing of the cost for it to be worthwhile for both the tutor and agency. And I've known some agencies to have a 75-25 split where they get 75% of the fee. So do not assume that's all going to the tutor. 50-50 is very common. There are some agencies that charge less than that. So that brings us to another option, is finding an independent tutor. Now, you may find an independent tutor through some of these online tutoring services. However, due to the fact that half or more of that fee is going to the service, some of the more proficient SAT tutors may choose to eliminate that overhead by simply working on a referral basis. So ideally, if you can find an experienced local tutor who has a track record, who has referrals from students who have gotten documented results, this is a great starting point. When you've gotten those kind of referrals, I definitely encourage you to email, or preferably call their contacts on the phone. Find out, just exactly how they've been able to help them, what the results have been. Maybe find out a little bit more about the tutor's preferred methods, and work on that basis. So that pretty much gives you a good overview of finding a tutor, the right kind of tutor for the SAT, selecting them. Additionally, in some cases, You may be served better by an online tutor, or possibly a small classroom group. Small groups, the key on that is that everyone is fairly well matched up in terms of ability and in terms of motivation. If you have any questions on this and I can render any guidance, serve you better, you can contact me, Darryl Hold, tutorpro88@gmail.com, affordable-tutor.com. I look forward to serving you.